Oh, yeah. We're winning the league. So what did we learn from Tottenham beating Man City 1-0, thanks to a second-half sunny goal? We learned a couple things. Obviously, it's early in the season. It's one game. I don't mean to overreact. I would never do such a thing. But there are some key talking points to look at in terms of Manchester City and Tottenham and about what the future holds for both clubs, as neither of them have Harry Kane at the moment, essentially. So the first point I want to make, and Premier League panel emphasized this and visualized it a lot better than I ever could, was Nuno's system. Obviously at Wolves he played the back five with the two wing backs and the three center backs quite efficiently until they parted ways, and it seems like that he pretty much put that system right into place at Tottenham, just in a bit of a different way, and that's with Tanganga and Reguilon. Obviously, Reggie's a much more offensive fullback. That's his natural position. Tanganga is more of a natural center back who's kind of learning this right back position because that's kind of what Tottenham need at the moment. And as you can see, the average positions here. So you have Dyer and Sanchez, who, shout out to them both for playing tremendously because they are god-awful, let's be honest. But as you can see, Tanganga barely made it over the halfway line. Reggie was bombing forward constantly, despite the fact that most of Tottenham's threats did come from the right-hand side, but I credit that more to Son and Lucas kind of shading over that way more naturally. Oliver Skipp played very well, dropping back in between our center backs to make a back three occasionally, but Tanganga staying here allows essentially to create and hold a back four at all times, even when Tottenham are attacking, and then if Tanganga got forward, which he did occasionally, Oliver Skipp would hold right there, and then Spurs would at least hold that back three shape that Nuno loves so frequently. So not only did Premier League panel here kind of visualize that in terms of that picture I just showed you, but here's real life examples from the match. You can see Spurs are counterattacking here. We're up 1-0, and Reggie is bursting forward. This ball to Dele Alli here coming from probably Oliver Skipp right here, I believe. And it's just very evident what the strategy was. Tanganga hanging back here. The ball's on the right-hand side. Normally, if you have a Serge Aurier type, he's probably around here, almost where the referee is, which is fine, but that's certainly not Tanganga's style. His offensive, awareness and positioning isn't there quite yet. So you have Reggie here taking up the space here, and Tanganga can just hang back here. Oliver Skipp's on his left, and you have Dyer and Sanchez pretty much off screen right here, but that is a back four that's holding while you're attacking. And once again, you can see it now, Manchester City attacking this way. You've got Dyer, you've got Davinson Sanchez, and you've got Tanganga, and this is your back three, essentially. So Nuno's Wolves tactics certainly translated fairly well to Tottenham in this first game, and we'll look to see more of that in the future and kind of how this shape takes place if we get a right back like Tomiyasu in the future. Another thing that the Premier League panel showed, and I certainly noticed during the match, was Tottenham dropped the second most points in the league from winning positions. They dropped 23 points from winning positions last season. That's unacceptable. You cut that in half, and Spurs are a top 4 team again. So how do you do that? It's the constant counterattack, even when up 1-0. We didn't see it under Jose Mourinho. We didn't see it under Ryan Mason. When Spurs had the lead, there was no offensive threat for them at all. And now, here we go. Look at these screenshots from us being up 1-0. We've got our front four driving forward, and just looking very threatening at all times. Man City struggled to deal with the counterattack, but also at the same time, Manchester City has good individual defenders. They did well enough to contain the threat to, keep it at 1-0. But overall, it's the purpose of Tottenham going for that second goal, going to kill the game. Again, look, Spurs are up 1-0 here. Reggie's bombing forward. Bergwijn's picking the ball up here, and Son is available for a long ball right there. Another one when we sub Lo Celso on, and this is the 78th minute we're in right now. Spurs could shut the doors, have 10 men back, and have no counter-attacking threat. But that is the old way. That's why we played under Jose, and that was unacceptable. That's how we blew so many leads. This is how you get it done. Look at the space Lucas Moura is creating right here, and the space Lo Celso is creating. Son, he plays the ball to Lucas Moura in this instance, but he could go either way, and that's what you need on the counterattack. You need options. You need options going forward. And again, right here, we've got pretty much a 3-on-3 here that will turn into something like a 5-on-5 once all the players in this picture get back. And again, it's just the fact that the threat is there that Manchester City have to honor and respect our counterattack. And that's what worked for us. That's why Nuno's system worked so well in this instance. Something that didn't really get mentioned too much, but I just want to point out is that While it kind of looked like a 4-2-3-1 on paper from Nuno for Spurs, it ended up being much more of kind of like a Christmas tree formation. So our back four, and it's a little bit out of position because this is the average player position. So you have the back four of Regi, Dyer, Sanchez, and Tanganga, and then in front of them you have the midfield three that are much more centrally attained. You have Dele Alli, you have Oliver Skip, and you have Pierre Emil Højbjerg right here as our midfield three. And then sitting behind Son, much more narrow than kind of what they're expected to play as of like last season and since they've been at Spurs. You have Bergwijn and Lucas. Look how tucked in they are, especially when we don't have the ball. You notice how congested we make it, and then even going forward. They didn't drift too wide. They allowed the fullbacks to kind of occupy that space, especially Reguilon, as we mentioned before. And then, of course, Son up top, again, stayed quite centrally, but was allowed to drift. It normally drifted on the right-hand side. That is where the goal came from, him drifting right and then cutting inside. But for the most part, it was a 4-3-2-1, not a 4-2-3-1 from Nuno, and it worked to perfection, essentially. And then the last point I just want to make is about Manchester City. We've talked about Tottenham enough here. I think we need to talk about where Manchester City went wrong. And it's fairly obvious if you look at their average player position. So they started Jack Grealish in a 4-3-3. They started him at one of the central midfield positions. But Jack Grealish, where is he? Where his average player position is so far out wide. Him and Raheem Sterling occupied the same spaces constantly. And while they didn't really get in each other's way as much as it kind of looks like in this picture, Tanganga held them both in check incredibly well. These two guys occupying this same area all the time, it really took away from Manchester City's ability to control the middle a bit more. And granted, Manchester City controlled the middle very well whenever they had the ball, but it kind of took away their ability to find that final ball from the middle, at least until De Bruyne came on. Then De Bruyne occupied a little bit more space in the middle, and it kind of gave them the threat that they were looking for. But when you're a team like Manchester City, look at the amount of space that's here. There's no one in the middle of the pitch occupying it to be able to play that final through ball. And I think that was what Jack Grealish was supposed to do, but he has a natural tendency to drift out wide. He's much more comfortable playing out wide and cutting inside. It's the same thing as Raheem Sterling. Those two guys are almost the same player in terms of play style, and I think this is very evident of that, is the fact that their average positions, they're pretty much right next to each other. And then, of course, the fact that Manchester City doesn't have a natural striker. They subbed on Gabby Jesus for about a half hour, and they didn't even put him in the striker position. They played him out wide on the left. They left Ferran Torres to play as the false nine kind of striker role, and it just didn't work. When you've got all these playmakers on the field at once, nobody is thinking about that final ball, that final run that a Harry Kane can make and put the ball away. And even Heung-min Son to a degree, he's not necessarily a natural striker, but he can play the position well enough because he's good enough with either foot to put the ball in the back of the net. And with Manchester City, you saw that first half hour or so, Man City missed about 2 or 3 sitters that a natural striker, someone with a little more composure and a little bit better finishing, would have been able to put away. And then, if it's 2-0 at halftime in favor of Manchester City, this game's done and dusted. There's just no way around it. So, Man City are clearly missing a striker. Is Harry Kane gonna be their answer? I don't know. Every single day there's a new news story about Manchester City are not going to go for Harry Kane, or Manchester City are going to go for Harry Kane, or at least they're just watching the situation and Harry Kane's hanging out. In terms of what Kane's going to do for Tottenham, I think he's going to come back into this side soon, honestly. Maybe that's another video. We'll see what happens, but I hope Harry Kane comes back for us. I hope, the fans get behind him and stuff, because he's Harry Kane. He's the best striker in the Premier League, bar none. He's arguably the best striker in the world, behind Lewandowski maybe. But yeah, that's really it. So that's kind of my quick thoughts and just ramblings of Tottenham's win against Manchester City. I'm going to try to release these after every game, just a bit of incoherent randomness that I noticed, and we'll let other people visualize better. So people like Premier League Panel and Who Scored and SofaScore can take my points to the next level of legitimacy. But other than that, thanks for watching, everyone. Be sure to subscribe, like, all the nonsense. Follow me on Twitch, where I stream 3 days a week. We do the Football Manager stuff. And yeah, other than that, see you in the next video. Bye!